Welcome to Retirement, the Great Escape Plan. I'm Jenny Brown, CEO of JBS Financial Strategists and author of Retirement, the Great Escape Plan. This podcast is about rethinking retirement, not just the numbers, but the life you're planning for. In each episode, the JBS team, along with special guests, will explore real conversations, real experiences, and the decisions that help people approach retirement with clarity and confidence. Because thriving should be fun and naps should be epic. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to this episode of Retirement, the Great Escape Plan. So one of the most common things that people say that stand out, whether they have enough on paper, enough money on paper or not, is I'm scared of running out. It's something we hear all the time. And that fear can quietly shape everything, how much you spend, how much you travel, whether you enjoy, what you've worked so hard over the decades before for. So today we're talking about how to enjoy life without that fear of running out and what actually helps our clients feel confident enough to live, not just protect. So today I'm joined by my two wonderful business partners, Warren and Peter, who have these conversations with clients every single day. So this episode isn't about pushing people to spend excessively or recklessly, and it's not about pretending that the risks don't exist. It's about understanding where that fear comes from and what keeps it alive, and what generally helps our clients feel safe enough to enjoy their retirement. Because a good plan isn't there to stop you living. It's there to support the life you want. Really interestingly, I was doing some research for a blog that I wrote recently, and what I found was 61% of people feared running out of money in retirement more than they feared death itself. It's an unbelievable statistic. And Warren, let me throw to you. Is that something that has come up in regular conversation with clients that you've been having?
Thanks, Jen. Great to catch up again and have a topic such as this. It's a really good and challenging topic because often it is one of the biggest fears of clients is the fact that they have only really got this one pot of money, and once they do retire, that tap sort of turns off. And we've talked a little bit about that in previous episodes around the psyche of retirement, but it is a pretty amazing thing how scared some people are of the fact that the money is going to run out. And comparatively to dying, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I don't know about you, Peter, but when you're talking to clients about these sort of things, it is just to give them that reassurance because obviously, late at night when your head hits the pillow, there's the sort of things that you do worry about. So, there's no doubt there's a lot of coaching and a lot of discussions around the fear of running out of money because it is something that is a real reality for a lot of clients.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Warren, on that one. It definitely, as you sort of allude to, it's really coaching clients through that thought process of they're moving from getting a regular income while they're working to now understand, well, where am I going to get that money from? Where's my income going to come from? And yeah, you're right. It's that sleep at night factor as well that plays on their mind. So it's definitely a huge coaching opportunity that we have with clients. And as you said, Jen, at the start, it's almost one that we're having every day with clients.
Absolutely. So another stat that I came across when I was doing the research was that a lot of clients could actually afford to spend up to 66% more than what they're actually spending without running out of money. So these are the same people who are fearing running out of money. Were you surprised by that?
Not at all, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't think I'm surprised by that at all because fortunately, a lot of the conversations are around the fact that, you've done the work, you've done the preparation, you've set yourself up, you've worked the long hours, you put the money aside that you are able to spend a bit more than what you really were. And it's a change of that mindset from save, put away to be able to enjoy it. I guess we do have to have the conversations with some clients where, you are spending more than what you can afford. So there are those conversations we definitely do have to have. But the fortunate thing for a lot of our clients is the fact that we have had longer term relationships and had the discussions around, how long money will last And I guess all of that is supported by the research and the projections that we do, runs on the board with portfolio performance, tax savings, those sort of things. They're all the key things that provide comfort to clients to be able to trust the system and trust the values and the projections to be able to spend some of that money. And then there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, a lot of the conversations, particularly once we get through the first years of retirement and they understand the true cost of living, because, you know, if they're structured correctly, the money that they're drawing is tax-free money, not just, you know, 100 grand salary is different to 100 grand in retirement because of the tax position and all that sort of stuff. And so once they understand what they're living on, once they understand the true cost of their retirement, they can make some informed decisions, and tracking back to where they started, where they expected to be and where they really are. Often we're having conversations to say that, you know, we're in a better position than what they were. And while 66 does sound like a big difference, it's probably spot on, don't you think, Pete? I reckon that's probably a good number.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, as you said, it doesn't surprise me either that, you know, it is such a large number, I guess. As you sort of said, we have these conversations a lot, and it's not a conversation that we have once with a client either. So I think you'll both agree that it's, for a lot of clients, we are having to hold their hand, and there's maybe, you know, half a dozen or more conversations with some, for argument's sake, that we're having over the first 1 or 2 years of retirement to really, you know, hold their hand through that process and give them the comfort. You know, it's also, I think, experience when they start living off their superannuation or what other assets they've got, they start, you know, becoming comfortable with, you know, how it's all working and things like that. So, and yeah, as Warren said, unfortunately, there are some clients we have to have those tough conversations with, but ultimately we're really conservative. You know, from our end, we do a lot of modeling with our clients, and we're really conservative with those numbers. A lot of the times we're actually telling clients that, you know, you're probably going to get better. And what we also see with clients a lot is, you probably spend the most amount of money in your first 10, 15 years of retirement, depending on what you want to do. And then towards the later stages of retirement, that's when sort of, your spending might change because, you know, maybe you've done your travel, you no longer want to go overseas, so you're doing more local trips, or maybe you've got grandkids or family, you know, keeping you at home closer and things like that. So a lot of what we're also saying to clients is, well, you know, we're projecting that you're living on 120 grand a year for life, but in reality, it might be 120 for the first 10 years. And then, as Warren alluded to before, it's your spending changes over time, and maybe in the later years of life that's cutting down, then, you know, your money's lasting even longer and things like that.
It reminds me what you were just saying of a meeting, and we keep catching up with these clients, and they keep bringing it up, or I keep bringing it up, and she really wants to travel business class, and he's really frugal, going, oh, maybe premium economy. Now they've got plenty of money and they've helped their kids, and they've gifted some money to their kids, but it's also giving you that permission to say, you know what, if you really want to travel business class, you can afford to travel business class. And that's really cool, because that then it gives the confirmation to the clients that they can achieve their goals and they can do what they want, even though he doesn't want to. But, you know, she's often said, well, you can travel in premium economy and I'll travel in business and I'll see you at the other end. You know, it's those sort of conversations, I think, that are really good to have with clients as well.
Yeah. It also reminded me as well of like the importance of an impartial, you know, judge or coach in those sort of conversations, and how people's reliance on those, on us in that situation. I mean, the other day I just simply got an email from a client who we've had the conversation probably close to 6 years, I reckon, about the husband and wife being in a financial position, but they've well and truly got enough to retire. And for health reasons, we've helped encourage the husband to wind back his work hours and do things like that. And I get a random email out of the blue from the wife the other day saying, oh, now tell me about how I can access my super, because there's a change of employment. My boss is no longer what it is. It's a toxic environment. First thing I write back and say, you don't have to put up with this. Like it's that whole permission piece is really amazing in what our role is, because ultimately we've told them over and over, and yet there's still that fear of, am I able to do this? Is it okay? I guess it's the unknown for them when we're dealing with it every single day. but it's that really challenging thing that clients obviously go through that we help support them is the uncertainty around it. Now, these are smart people who should be able to do the numbers and understand it, but they still need that second opinion, I guess, to be able to get, pull the trigger. So
Yeah, just sorry to jump in there. I agree. I think those conversations, clients really value them as well. And I think, whilst we talk about, we do projections and things like that, I'm thinking of a client that I work with, and whilst I give them pretty graphs and I make it show to last, the thing that they probably hang on to the most is the conversation I have with them on a constant basis. Every time they're worried about spending money, whether it's on the house or doing a trip or things like that, they get more value out of me actually having the conversation, giving them that reassurance versus looking at a graph on a piece of paper.
Absolutely. And I think that it's that constant reassurance, as you said, Peter, it's not just the first time or the second time. It's that, the constant reinforcement.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and you've got young boys, but it's like consistently, and I can relate this, to my dogs. You've got to consistently coach them and tell them what they can and can't do. And it's almost like the same thing with clients. You consistent reinforcement to say, you can do this if you want to do it. And it's eventually then becomes, a habit if they start doing it. So
particularly a lot of these baby boomers who have been so disciplined for so long, built their wealth in any environment. You got to go to work every single day. You got to bust your gut. You got to put it away. Save your buckets, as we're talking about. Save for retirement. You never know what's going to come around the corner. So for so many years, this mentality and this mindset's built up. To unwind that or change it or adjust it does take time. And there's no doubt that there's you're wired a certain way after a certain period of time of doing something the same way. And so I guess that's the real challenge. And the psychology of money is pretty amazing, because obviously it's a fine line, because you want the last dollar to bounce on your funeral day. But I guess it's just trying to find that balance, because the fear of actually running out of money is pretty significant, as we can see.
Absolutely. And you say about the baby boomers. Thanks. I'm right at the tail end of that. But anyway, but I look at my dad, and he went through the war and then the Great Depression, the war, but he grew up in an environment where money was scarce. And so then as he worked and he then ran his own business, and then, made sure that he put away, and there was no such thing as super back in his day, but, he kept saving and saving and saving and saving, to the extent that when he did retire, and he retired early 60s, somewhere around then, he was also always very frugal. Other than a round the world trip with mum, he was very frugal about what he spent his money on. And it was because of what he'd done, and his formative childhood and teenage years actually instilled that. So it's really hard to break that habit and that psyche. But what we can do is encourage clients to reach out and ask the question, I think, is that, can I afford to do this? And if and then we can run the numbers and then work out whether you can actually afford to do it or not.
Yeah, it is amazing when you deal with different people and how their mentality around those sort of things. You go into some people's houses and it's freezing cold, but yet they've got all the money in the world, but then they're too scared to turn the heater on. So it is that whole conversational piece around understanding and realizing to put themselves first, I guess, with their own retirement. Yeah.
Exactly. So how would you give a client permission to enjoy the wealth that they've actually created?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just reinforcing, coaching the clients. It is, as Warren said, it is trying to coach them through that mindset shift of, you've gone through life, been told to say, put your money away, not spend it, or not spend it on, the things that you want, but spend on the things that you need. So for me, it's about just being that constant, calm voice in a client's ears to give them that permission, coach them and say, well, now you've worked hard your whole life, you built up your savings, you've done all the right things, put yourself in this financial position. You're now retiring. Retiring is that third phase of life, I think, is what what we refer to it as. And that's the stage where, you know what, you've got to start enjoying your life. You've worked hard, you built this up. Now's the time for you to focus on you and have that permission yourself to, you know, let's start enjoying the life that you've got, because unfortunately, you know, life has an end, and let's make it an awesome one. Or as you said, let's have an epic retirement. That's what we need to reinforce to clients that they need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In conjunction with that, I think it's just pure facts. You've just got to work on the facts of the client situation. And we've got a pretty powerful table that we use within our discussion document meetings, the ins and outs table, which is pretty simple about the time we've been working together, what you've put in, what you've taken out, what the balance still is. And often that'll be, you know, built up in some clients who you've dealt with for a long time, Jen, you know, 20, 30 years of history there that proves to them, you know what, this isn't just a fly-by-night strategy that's going to hopefully work. You've been doing it for however long. So trust it. And they're the ones that, initially, that's why sometimes for newer clients, it does take time. We try to sometimes use real examples to illustrate that to them, but sometimes these conversations can take 3, 4, 5 years to help educate and change the mindset of potential retirees as they're coming into that critical stage.
Absolutely. So I think we might sort of finish it there. But what I'd really love to leave our listeners with today is that the fear of running out is incredibly human. I mean, the studies are showing it. ASIC have got statistics. Of the research I've shown has got it. But it doesn't have to run your retirement. You don't have to run your retirement on these statistics to say that, you know, you're going to run out of money. So what I would suggest, with clarity and structure and the right support, your plan can give you confidence, not just safety. So it's about being, you know, looking at retirement isn't just being prepared. It's about enjoying the life that you've worked to build all your life. And as we like to say at JBS, thriving should be fun and naps should be epic. So until next time, look after yourself and have a great retirement. Thanks for listening to Retirement, the Great Escape Plan. If today's conversation raised questions for you or simply gave you something to think about, that's a great place to be. Retirement isn't about having everything figured out at once. It's about starting the right conversations and taking thoughtful steps over time. You'll find helpful resources and references related to this episode in the show notes. For more tips and insights and practical guidance, we also invite you to visit the JBS Financial website, where you'll find a range of tools and resources to support you at every stage of retirement. You can also follow JBS Financial on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube for ongoing conversations, updates, and ideas to help you plan well and live fully. Join us next time as we continue exploring what really means to plan well, live fully, and enjoy retirement on your terms. Because thriving should be fun and naps should be epic.